David has discussed the bizarre political phenomenon, which is that you have this guy, Trump, who's running for president. I don't know if you've heard. And his wife, Melania, just never seems to want to be around him. It's very strange, very notable. And to try to address some of those criticisms, Melania Trump did finally come out of hiding and make a public appearance. This was in an interview with Fox and Friends. And one moment went very viral. She did not intend for it to, but it backfired badly. Okay, so we'll get to that. First, let me just give you a couple context clips of sort of the vibe of this interview. You have her saying this.
So I think American people need to decide what they really want. Maybe some, strong tweets, but everything else great for this country. So it's all in the American people's hands on November 5th.
I did talk about on my show. And so for viewers who watch both, I don't want to just rehash the entire rant. How much it triggers me when people reduce the criticism of Trump to, he has some aggressive tweets. Okay, we can deal with that. That's not the problem. You remember when he left the whole country in shambles, that whole thing? You remember that? Democracy hanging in the balance. Pandemic mismanaged. Economic crisis mismanaged. Crime spike mismanaged. And then Biden-Harris had to sort of fix all those problems. Maybe look there for some indications of why we don't like it, why we don't support him. And maybe, do you remember that time when he sent that post on True Social? He said, a massive fraud of this type magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. That's weird. That's not something I want in a president. Oh, but it's just mean tweets. That's all. That's all we care about. So irritating. Here's more.
How did you feel about Donald Trump running again?
I support him. I know how passionate he is to make America great again.
We saw you backstage at the RNC. Do you want to talk about why you decided not to come out on stage and give a speech like you did in 2016?
It was my decision. I think was just the time. I think was the right time. In days before, I wrote a beautiful letter to America.
Yes.
And I think in one way that letter was my speech.
The raid on, how did you?
And then they get into the raid on Mar-a-Lago that Melania says was show violating and terrible. And can you get that? They went into my room and they searched it because they had a search warrant. That's what a search warrant does, Melania. It allows you to search even your room. Yep, that's it. The way they cry foul about that really also gets under my skin. But then we get to the part that went viral. Melania Trump said, Donald Trump, or she was asked, what is something you wish Americans could know about your husband that they don't? Which is funny. Melania assumes what she's about to say is something they don't know, that America doesn't know about Trump. But she says, Trump's just such a family man, And this led to, and this is on the Midas Touch network, Michael Cohen pointing out, I don't know if that's the correct term for Donald Trump.
How do you feel when people say they don't like him? What do you wish they knew about him?
That he's really a family man. He loves his family.
Yes, he's such a family man, Cohen, that he has a bunch of different families.
Right. See, he's a major and a tremendous family man. Let's just break this down. If you read my book, Disloyal, you'll see at least a half a dozen different scenarios where he literally says some of the worst shit about Don Jr. that you could ever imagine. That he is the worst fucking judgment of, and these aren't my words, these are Donald's words, that Don Jr. has the worst fucking judgment of anyone he's ever met in his life. Ivanka, he wants to sleep with. Eric, he really doesn't say anything other than Eric has his spatial understanding, right? All three of these kids, by the way, were not raised by Donald. They were really raised by their mom, but more even than that, they were raised by a guy named Vinny, who was their driver. And I'll never forget when Donald wanted to fire Vinny, they all stepped up and they said, if you do, we're actually leaving. It's the one thing that we will not let you do. He was more of a father to them than their own father. Tiffany, the redheaded stepchild that nobody even knew from. I mean, if I can tell you stories till tomorrow about, she would call, he'd roll his eyes. And I feel bad because I actually happen to know and like Tiffany. And then, of course, there's Barron. Barron has seen less of Donald than any of the other 4 children, which is hard to believe as it relates even to Tiffany. So yeah, he's a family man. While Melania just has a child, he's out there sleeping with a porn star and a Playboy playmate. Absolutely the best father. He deserves the Time Magazine Father of the Year award.
Yeah, so those are allegations from Michael Cohen, but they're backed up by Trump's record more broadly. Things that have been proven, even in courts of law, like the porn star remark, like Trump being found liable for sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll. And this is a part of a broader gaslighting effort by MAGA to convince us of something that surely they don't even think is true. I know some of them do believe that Trump is a family man, because I've talked to them and they looked in my eyes and they said, I love him because he loves his family so much. But that's more your hardcore cultist. But the other people who go, oh, he's a Christian man, it more feels like they're just showing, see, I'll say what needs to be said to demonstrate my love of Trump. Because you watch his life, the story of his life is of someone who could not give one single, about family. Someone who does not treat people like a family man would. And so for Melania to say that, yes, it led to a humiliating trend where one example after another was being posted on social media of him being the opposite of that. But it's also her doing the same sort of MAGA virtue signaling, which is, we all know this isn't really true. Again, I'm assuming they know that. Otherwise, yikes. Either that term means something very different to you than it really means, or you're really detached from reality. So I'm going to assume you're intelligent and that's not true. So then you're just showing your fellow MAGA people, see, we all pretend like this. We all pretend this is true. And why that would be the term she uses, when one of the reasons she didn't want to show up to Trump's criminal trial in Manhattan is because she didn't want to hear about how he slept with the porn star, because she knows it's true. She didn't want to hear about how Stormy Daniels spanked Trump with a magazine with his face on it. She didn't want to hear those things. Why? Because it reminds her of how much of an anti-family man Donald Trump is.
I want to share with you a key part of my daily routine, AG1. In the morning before my coffee, I put a scoop of AG1 in water and get 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, prebiotics, probiotics, all sourced from whole foods. It's an easy, convenient way to just fill nutritional gaps, support my gut for optimal digestion. AG1's prebiotics, probiotics, and other ingredients can reduce bloating, aid in digestive health long-term. Instead of juggling multiple supplements or trying to perfectly plan your meals, AG1 provides a simpler, more cost-effective solution, and its bioavailable formula ensures that your body can absorb and use everything in the powder. AG1 has even been shown in a recent study to double the amount of healthy bacteria in the gut. This promotes long-term digestive comfort. Plus, it tastes great on its own with water, but you can mix it into the drink of your choice. AG1 is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2, plus 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first subscription order at drinkag1.com/Pacman. The link is in the description.